All right, let's jump into this first story. Yo, this story is wild. Texas National Guard deploys armed soldiers to block Biden's Border Patrol access to the river in Eagle Pass. Governor Abbott is not harming Border Patrol operations. He is enhancing them. That's what they say. On Thursday night, the Texas National Guard took control of Shelby Park in the city of Eagle Pass, Texas, which has been at the center of President Joe Biden's illegal immigrant crisis at the U.S. southern border. According to the Dallas Morning News, the state government has seized control of the area, and the Texas National Guard has set up razor wire and fences to block off the park. A filing from Biden's Department of Justice reveals the Texas National Guard has blocked points of entry and has deployed armed soldiers and vehicles to block Border Patrol agents from access to the river by bypassing through entry points in the federal border barrier. Eagle Pass Mayor Rolando Salinas told reporters that the decision was made as part of the Republican Governor Greg Abbott's emergency declaration and was not something the city had requested. He added that as a result, the Border Patrol was not operating in the area. Okay, so this is exactly what I said I was worried about weeks ago. When we're looking at the Biden administration, CBP facilitating illegal immigration into this country, when you have videos of it's the construction equipment lifting up the razor wire that was placed there by the state to protect the state, you've got the federal government facilitating crimes and unconstitutional, it's unconstitutional for them not to defend the states from invasion, but they're actually facilitating the illegal immigration outright. And then when Greg Abbott says this is illegal, the DOJ sues them. My fear was exactly this, and what comes next terrifies me. What happens when the Texas National Guard is deployed with rifles, with weapons, to defend the state and uphold its laws, and the Biden administration federal agents say, you're the ones committing the crimes. Both groups point at each other saying, you're committing crimes. For now, I'm hoping what happens, Border Patrol leaves. They just leave. They can file their lawsuits, and that's the end of it. But my fear is that we get to the point where Texas National Guard is ordered, secure this area, do not let people pass. Plainclothes federal agent with a gun walks up and says, lower your weapon. This is a federal border jurisdiction. The state says, back the F off, don't move, and things escalate from there.
I think because it's a situation where everyone on both sides are trying to preserve life. You've got the federal government saying these poor immigrants, we need to preserve their lives, whereas the Texas government saying we need to preserve the lives of our citizens. That the law enforcement's not going to turn on. They both want to de-escalate and make this as peaceful as possible.
I got to stop you right there, and we'll do a fact check. The Biden administration, I believe, although it is an opinion statement, I'll respect that. I will. But I do think it is fair to say the Biden administration is not trying to save lives.
Yeah.
People coming on this journey die. Young women are horribly raped in huge numbers, and crossing the river is dangerous. They die.
Children are getting trafficked and raped. They're finding 5-year-old girls with 10 samples of semen inside of them. I mean, it's terrible. That's not really a pro-life position to take.
And they're dying in the desert.
Yeah.
So if the Biden administration actually said we're going to protect these people, he would go to the Mexican government saying we're securing our borders, we're locking it down, and you need to stop these people before they cross into this dangerous territory.
That's the argument I would make personally. I don't think that they're helping by letting them, urging them to come across the border, but I think the state of mind that they have is toxic compassion. We can help everyone come.
I think that's an excessively optimistic perspective on what the Biden administration is there for. If you look at the EU policy, if you look at the American policy over the past 20, 30 years, but really aggressively so as of late, it seems quite clear to me that this is actually a plan to flood the country with immigrants. And as a libertarian, I'm rarely am I considered a border hawk, but when you actually look at it and you see that this is like an operation that's being ran on high, I think that it would be foolish to look the other way and say, oh no, they're just the people looking for opportunity. If it were the case, as it was historically, that if you were an immigrant that got across the border and the only thing offered to you was perhaps a low-level job and you had to grind your way to the top, that's a totally different incentive structure than what we face today, where these people are offered clothes and food and housing and everything that they could possibly need. And sex changes.
And healthcare.
And healthcare. I mean, the list goes on and on. I don't think that this is an accident, and I don't think it has anything to do with sympathy for it.
I would also, I was just going to say, I don't think that we can overlook the fact that this is being done in an election year as well, because what's happening is you're having an invasion. Okay, they're trying to replace the population. The Great Replacement is not some conspiracy theory like the left-wing media wants it to be. They say that it's some kind of white supremacist conspiracy theory, and as we know, it's very real. We are being replaced in this country by third world invaders, criminal, illegal, alien invaders. And unfortunately, what's happening is when these illegals are coming to places like Texas, you have governors like Governor Abbott habit, who are then putting them on buses. And I had, one of my followers on X sent me a video that they filmed of a bus of these illegals with Texas plates getting dropped off at a train station just outside of Chicago. Why does that matter? Well, people may think, oh, it's all fun and games, ha ha ha, give these Democrats a taste of their own medicine by shipping them to sanctuary cities. But these are cities where they give illegals driver's licenses. And so these people are going to have IDs, and what's going to stop them? Not that we really have voter ID in this country anyway, but what's going to stop these people from voting in our election?
But that's not the issue. I'm not concerned in the immediate with the idea that an illegal immigrant votes. The issue is simply by being here, it gives Democrats more congressional seats and more electoral votes. So
but that has to do with the elections.
But so it's.
That's my point, is that they're doing it on purpose. And we saw the Democrat from New York, I don't know her name, who said that she's in favor of this because it's going to, create more of these districts.
There's that school in, I think it was in New York, where they said all the students have to stay home and do remote learning because they're bringing the illegal immigrants into that school. Someone posted the political map of the area and found that this area of the city or this area of New York voted Republican and the surrounding area is Democrat. So sure enough, the area targeted where they're shipping in a bunch of these migrants is a red area. But what happens with illegal immigrants in the immediate? It is true that when these people come in, and then I'm willing to bet that Joe Biden rubber stamps some kind of amnesty executive order unconstitutionally and then makes everyone fight about it in the Supreme Court for years. But when he does that, you may actually then see a quick turnaround illegal immigrants voting. You will definitely see their children voting. They're very likely to vote Democrat because they want the benefits to themselves and their families. But in the immediate, when they count population in the census, they will say, oh, look, 10 million people live here now. That's going to be, what are we looking at? 12 congressional seats and 12 electoral votes for this state? But these people aren't even citizens, but they're getting federal representation. And that's what we are. We're not a democracy. It doesn't matter if the single individual votes. If you have 10 Democrats living in an area and they put 750,000 illegal immigrants in it, those 10 American citizens now get one Democrat to represent them in Congress.
And that's why it's so important that we get President Trump back in office, because President Trump has said that he's in favor of banning birthright citizenship. And in fact, every single GOP candidate so far, including Vivek Ramaswamy, has said that they're in favor of banning birthright citizenship, which is what happens, of course, when these anchor babies are born. And there's only one candidate that won't agree to it. And it's Nikki Haley, because she would then be disqualified from running for office because she herself is an anchor baby. I don't know if you knew that, Tim, but Nikki Haley's parents were not citizens. They were both immigrants who had only been in this country for less than 3 years at the time of her birth, which means that she technically is not a natural-born citizen, which is a requirement to run for president. And so that's why we need to elect a president, President Donald Trump. Every single candidate who wants to be president going forward, whether it be 2024, 2028, or onward, needs to commit to banning birthright citizenship. We cannot be giving favors out to anchor babies.
I think there's an interesting way to look at it is, I think the argument Donald Trump has, as well as Vivek Ramaswamy, is that the founding fathers did not intend for this idea of birthright citizenship, this idea that simply because you were born here, you are now entitled to the full benefits of the public coffers and the national defense, et cetera, et cetera. The 14th Amendment was trying to rectify the issue of slavery, basically saying these people here, they're citizens, and it turned into something that almost no other country on the planet does. I think there's like one or two. You can come here illegally, have a kid, and that kid's a citizen. No one in the world does that. So reasonably, I don't think the issue is that we're banning it. I think we got to reframe it, enforcing the existing standards of the Constitution as to what it means to be a citizen.
Yeah.
If we, this is the game that Democrats are really good at playing, is reframing the narrative that we are the ones who want to take action, when in fact they already took the action in the first place in their interpretation of how you get to be a citizen.
It'd be cool if you could become a citizen by the time you turn 18 as a kid, just by taking tests and things throughout your course of life, because you could easily educate someone from another country, from parents that were illegal, to be better citizens, better knowledgeable, equipped people than some people that just lounge around and drink Mountain Dew all the time.
Yes, I think it's important to address that, right? You've got leftists who were born in this country, let's say they're 5th or 6th generation American, and they hate this country and want to see it burnt to the ground. And then you have people desperately trying to come to this country because they believe in the American dream. The only problem, if you're going to commit a crime to enter this country, I don't think you're the kind of person that really does believe in this country. Breaking the law to come here is the kind of, if someone comes and knocks on your door and says, I'd like to apply to be a roommate in this building, I think it's a really great house and I can pay my rent, you say, okay, I believe you. If someone breaks into your house, you're like, I don't trust this person actually cares about what's going on here.
I think we're past the time, though, of the discussion about whether it's legal or illegal. I think we need a full immigration moratorium. We are at full capacity here in this country right now, and I don't think that given record high inflation, the disaster known as Bidenomics, our wide open border, we don't need anyone else coming into this country. This is what I advocated and I ran on as a candidate for Congress when I ran in Florida as well. I think that we need a 10-year minimum, probably a 20-year minimum, really, if we're being honest, when we look at the actual number of illegals in this country, immigration moratorium. I think we need to halt immigration altogether.
I'm gonna have to counter that, Laura, and say we actually need the inversion and we need to mass deport. I'm kidding.
I'm in favor of both. I want mass deportations and an immigration moratorium.
Well, we're already dealing with a population decline. If you were to do that, I think that you'd have to address the fiscal concerns. And just from a purely pragmatic assessment, I agree with you that we can't afford all of these people. We certainly have room, not in the cities, but there's room in this country. It's not like we have nothing but cities everywhere. The real issue is that from the year 2000, the national debt had just broken $5 trillion. As of today, it sits at $34 trillion. That's over 6 times multiplier in less than 25 years. If you look at the interest on the national debt, it will be about 150% this year of what we spend on our national defense. Our national defense is comparable to the 10 biggest countries in the world combined. I mean, we're talking enormous sums of money. So if we're not going to get our financial house in order, then we absolutely have to keep the influx of migrants.
But that's one way that we can get our financial house in order. I mean, just Luke mentioned this earlier, right? They're giving sex changes now and healthcare to illegal aliens. The price tag to provide free healthcare and just free healthcare to illegal aliens, not to mention the cost of illegal immigration and this invasion in our country as it stands, right? So if we want to start reducing our debt and also start being more fiscally responsible and fiscally conservative, then that's exactly what we need. We need to militarize the United States border, as you were referencing in the beginning of the show. We need mass deportations and we need an immigration moratorium. I mean, it's a slap in the face to all Americans who there was a point in time I was paying over $500 a month for healthcare. And so you get to come across this country? Why not just renounce your United States citizenship and cross over from Mexico illegally and then get a free cell phone and new clothes and free healthcare and a sex change?
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.